Mr. Kisi, then head of compliance, Mr. Duku, head of institutional accreditation, Mr. Harry Opoku, and the head of MIS, which is the person of Hackman. So the nature of our presentation or our engagement is one that we are going to lay the facts. Then based on that, we'll then give it opportunity to ask some questions. Most of the questions that have come up relative to this honorary doctorate agenda has to do with people questioning the mandate of GTEC. In fact, people believe that we don't even have the logos, that the law do not allow us to question people's use of honorary doctorates. And in fact, some have even professed that the responsibility lies with the awarded institution and the discretion of the recipient as to whether that individual can use it or not. And they've even cited Dr. Kwame Nkrumah on numerous occasions. But if you look at our act, in accordance with Section 84D, and I'm speaking specifically to the Education Regulatory Bodies Act 1023, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission is mandated to regulate the use of higher education nomenclature and titles including university, college, emeritus, professor, doctor, chartered, and related terms. So there's no ambiguity when it comes to our mandate. I think this mandate stands questioned if it is brought before a competent court of jurisdiction and the court says that GTEC, you cannot do that. I think regulation is what? Regulation. We are supposed to what? To regulate that. And I don't want to move into the rationale behind the framers of 1023 inserting that. But the law is the law. That's what it says, that we shall regulate that space. And as you may be aware, GTEC in recent times observed the growing concern of the widespread and inappropriate use of honorary titles in Ghana. In fact, we had to send repeated caution to people who were using those titles. I remember somewhere in June, we sent a caution to the general public, and we sent reminders to them indicating that, look, if you are honored by virtue of your contribution to society in whatever ways and means that you are doing it, it ends there. You don't have to affix those titles to your name. So it's not as if we just got up one day and started calling on people not to use it. So a number of individual, particular politicians, religious leaders, herbalists, and entrepreneurs continue to use the title doctor on the basis of honorary doctorate awards in defiance of established guidelines. What is even worrying is that some unaccredited institutions lacking the legal mandate confer such honorary doctorates. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think what is even becoming alarming is that now there's a graduation from honorary doctorate to professor, and if we are not careful, we'll be moving to professor emeritus, and we may even veer off that tangent into other areas. And I think it is instructive for the general public to appreciate the distinction between honorary degrees and academic degrees or titles. For the avoidance of doubt, academic titles such as PhD, MSc, or bachelor's are earned through rigorous, structured, and supervised educational programs. These involve coursework, examinations, original research, thesis defense, and external review. In fact, if you take a PhD in mechanical engineering, it's conferred after years of coursework, research, and successful defense of the decision before an academic committee. So you just don't get up one day and confer on yourself the title PhD or its equivalent without having gone through the rigor of academic. Whereas when it comes to honorary doctorate, in most instances, we are looking at Doctor of Letters, honorary causa. This is a symbolic recognition awarded by accredited, and I must state, accredited chartered institutions. They acknowledge societal contributions, philanthropy, or leadership. But these do not require academic coursework or research. So when I see people who, quote and unquote, claim that they've been given honorary doctorate or professor, and they put in the public domain that so and so is a distinguished, accomplished professor, then I find it a little bit baffling, because a professorship from where we sit is an earned rank. And let me emphasize, it is earned rank. In fact, in the United States, they call it tenure track. So you need to start from somewhere and end at another place. In Ghana, you start as a lecturer. I've heard people say you can start as an assistant lecturer. No. Assistant lecturer is a transitional state. Usually, assistant lecturer is for people who do not have or meet the minimum qualification but have shown demonstrable evidence of progression towards completion of what? His or her what? A terminal degree. So you start as an assistant lecturer. You move to senior lecturer, associate professor, then professor. In fact, I use the analogy of the police, and I happen to be privileged to have attended the graduation ceremony of the current Inspector General of Police. And I indicate that the police officer starts as a constable. He then moves to a corporal. Then from corporal, you move to what? Sergeant. From sergeant, you move to inspector. Within that category, you will terminate as chief inspector. If you are very, very, very fortunate and lucky, and maybe some kind of divine intervention, you move to assistant sublieutenant of police, which is more or less the officer's rank. From assistant sublieutenant of police, you move to deputy sublieutenant of police, then to sublieutenant of police, chief sublieutenant, then you move to the next level, which is assistant commissioner, deputy commissioner, and what? Commissioner. Who am I sitting here to go and ascribe to myself that I'm a commissioner of police? I don't think I'll move outside this place. I mean, I can't even call myself a chief inspector. But in Ghana, we have people ascribing to themselves the title of professor. We want to state that only a university's governing council may confer such a title, either through promotion or direct appointment with appropriate academic qualifications. Any individual claiming the title honorary professor is misleading the public, and such conduct, I must say, is fraudulent. In line with international best practices, a qualified medical doctor, academic, or researcher creating ethical and legal risk. As stipulated in the Education Regulation Bodies Act 2020, GTEC underscores the following. 1. Only accredited and chartered institutions may confer honorary degrees. In fact, recently, colleagues, I must say that during the conferment of the honorary degree on the Inspector General of Police, which I must say is very deserving, we've had calls from a number of people asking if an institution that just got chartered and do not run PhD programs do have the mandate to run such programs. My response is that we are going to tailor those responses to the governing board of the commission, the highest decision-making body of the commission, to take a decision. I think those are legitimate concerns to be raised, and we will look at it, but I cannot sit here and make that decision. But for you to be able to confer an honorary doctorate on an institution, you need to be an institution that can what? Issue certificates. In most instances, we've had institutions that are affiliated to other. They don't even have the mandate to issue certificates, and they are issuing honorary doctorates. And again, people have also raised concerns relative to the frequency with which institutions are issuing doctorates or honorary doctorates, where in real time they cannot even graduate their PhD students. It's something that we have to look at, but we'll bring it before the governing board of the commission to look at it. So no institution, let me state for avoidance of that, within our jurisdiction is allowed to issue honorary professor. Professorship is an earned rank, and I need to stress that. It's an earned rank. Honorary professor titles conferred by foreign bodies without legitimate academic standing are not recognized in Ghana by the commission. In fact, for us, we don't recognize honorary professor at all. We don't. Misuse of academic titles such as doctor, professor, chartered constitutes an offense under the law. Penalties for violations include fines up to 250 penalty units, imprisonment for up to a year, or both. There are sanctions. Somebody said, yeah, there are sanctions. But let me state that this business, we are doing it in stages. And the stages being that the canker has festered for a very long time. People have gotten away with it. And GTEC even trying to more or less raise the awareness of the general public that this is wrong in itself is problematic. So as you could see, we started with issuing the warning. We issued another reminder. We are engaging in name and shame. If it doesn't work, we will prosecute one or two people to serve as deterrent to the general public. So it's not an event, it's a process. And let me state that I've heard people also say that you are speaking of honorary. What about those who are quote unquote professors within the academic arena? It's an venture. We don't want to more or less just be doing everything and anything at the same time. So GTEC reserves the right to investigate and sanction any individual or institution involved in the misuse or misrepresentation of academic titles. And let me state, for the avoidance of doubt, that GTEC, by virtue of being the regulator of tertiary educational delivery, informed by the different provisions of Act 1023 that I've just referenced, have the mandate. In fact, it is GTEC that accredits institutions in terms of awarding what? The credentials that comes with what? The PhD or the honorary PhD that you are talking about. So we have the mandate, and as I indicated, if anybody feels that what we are doing is illegal, let's go to court. But at the end of the day, I keep on saying, if you are not a doctor, what do you want to force yourself to become a doctor? As a matter of fact, you are being honored for your contribution to society. Why do you dilute it by giving people the opportunity to question your credentials? I think it's something that people will have to look at properly. As part of its enforcement operations, the Commission has initiated actions to name and shame individuals fraudulently using academic titles. Individuals are formally requested to verify their titles. Compliance may result in, ladies and gentlemen, that GTEC will not just come into the public domain and name people. No. For each and every individual whose name happened to have been brought into the public domain, we have had one way or the other in some form of what? Engagement. Engagement in the sense that, let me state that the number of people that we might have heard in the public domain is just a microcosm of the bigger number of people. So many people happen to be victims of this whole thing. There are so many names. We meet them, we call them, we alert them. Some of them genuinely are naive about the use of such titles. Some of them play to be naive when they are not. Some of them tend to be recalcitrant. And based on that posture, that is our good brother Ayaraga was communicated to on the phone. He said his PhD, his doctorate is in PhD, and he has 2 other honorary doctorates. He said he has 3. That was what he said. 2 honorary and 1 academic. They said, well, we are not interested in the honor. Provide evidence of the academic. We didn't hear from him. We sent him a message. We sent him a message. We didn't hear from him. Then we wrote officially, and in fact, the official writing there, and he signed Dr. Hassan. If evidence with evidence, then he says he's not going to do that. But he had an interview. With Bola Ray some time back. He said his PhD was in business management, with the thesis being in political science. Then he had another interview with Paul Adomochiri, and he says his PhD is in political science and his thesis is in political tolerance. So we said, look, it's quite interesting. So distinguished